Hi everybody, and welcome. If you're here, it's because you want to learn how to play Sidekick Saga. If you're here, you're also probably playing First Patrol, and that's what this is set up as. From the previous video, you probably saw us set up the First Patrol, and the First Patrol scenario comes from your scenario book rule here. Hopefully your little picture here matches our picture here, and then this scenario explains everything that's going on already. Okay, so if you are playing your first scenario, probably the first thing you want to know is, how do you win? So in every single scenario in the game, every time you play, there should be a win or lose that tells you how do you win and how to win the game. So in this case, the sidekicks only win if the city lasts the night. As gangs and thugs pop up, the sidekicks need to take them down. The sidekicks only win if they make it to the end of night with all thugs and gangs defeated. Only then can they rest. Okay? So if you remember from our setup from last time, these are the gangs and thugs that are coming out. This is the villain forces, and this is the bad news deck, okay? So there's only one way to win. Take out all these villain forces and all the things, all the thugs and gangs. Make sure that the city can sleep nice. However, there are three ways to lose. Way one is if the city sends into chaos, represented by the city terror here. If it makes it all the way to 16, the city is descended into chaos and the players lose. The sidekicks lose. So the way two to lose is if we make it to the end of the bad news deck. So at the end of night, after the last bad news card comes out, if we made it there and there's still gangs and thugs in the city, we lose. The third way to lose is if both heroes are reduced to 0 hit points. At the start of the game, we have 12, and as we take damage and fight bad guys throughout the game, we're going to take damage. If both of us are defeated, we lose the game. However, if only one of us survives, we still win, because it's very thematic. Perhaps maybe one of you will take it for the team so that the city will survive. Okay? So those are the three ways to lose, but there's only one way to win. Okay? Now, the game comes with a rule book. Feel free to, if you like rule books and like reading through stuff, this should show you how to play the game and everything you need. But in general, all you should really need is the player summary card. The player summary card here describes everything that goes on in the game. It describes the structure, and if you need to look up a rule, it's all in the rule book. There's even a nice little glossary on the back here, which describes most of the terms in the game. But take a look at this, and what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go in a high-level view of everything on this card to show you sort of what you need to do to play the game, and then we're going to go through a couple of rounds with you to show you how the game plays. So let us start first in the bad news phase. Like all games, you must start with bad news first. So there's two kinds of bad news that come out. The first bad news is that we have to reveal a card from the bad news deck here. And you'll notice there's like this little graphic here that talks, you see these little things here? What this shows you is the number of bad news cards that come out depend on the number of players. In a 4-player game, 2 bad news cards come out per turn. In a one or 2-player game, just 1 card comes out. But if you're in a 3-player game, it sort of alternates. First 1 bad news comes out, then 2. And this is really just for game balance. So the number of bad news cards that come out depend on the number of players in the game. So that's what that little graphic there means. Okay. So the first thing that happens in the bad news is you draw bad news. You reveal that. We'll turn it over so everyone can see it. And then we'll do what it says. We'll put it probably here just so everyone can see it. We'll actually do that later, but that's the bad news deck, okay? The second thing that happens is that we reveal a villain force. So this is the villain forces deck, which we set up in our last game, okay? And we'll take one of these cards, it'll come out and it'll move somewhere to the city and do stuff, okay? So that's the bad news phase. Bad news cards gets revealed, then villain forces card gets revealed, okay? Notice that you always exactly reveal 1 villain force card, whereas the number of bad news changes depending on the number of players. Okay, so bad news happens. The start of the day. It's like, think of this as the headline of the newspaper. Here's the bad news for today. Step 2 of the game is the sidekick phase. This is where all the sidekicks, yay, I'm with the Stereo and Blackbird, get to act and do good stuff. Okay, so during the sidekick phase, now, depending on how comfortable you feel with simultaneous action, let's say you're comfortable with 7 Wonders or played games like that before, what you can do is all of the sidekicks can do their actions at once. However, if you don't feel super comfortable with that, because maybe this is your first time playing a more modern board game, you can take your turns in order, player order. Okay, but for now we're just going to assume everything is done simultaneously. So each sidekick does all these steps simultaneously. All right, the first thing they do is move. Now movement, you'll notice here it says move up to your movement rate. So your movement rate is on your character. Down here, this is how far you can move, 2. And movement is always calculated orthogonally, which means, up and down or left to right. So for example, Blackbird here can move here. He could stay where he is. He can move 2 up to here. He can move 2 down the police station. He can move the suburbs. The only place he really can't reach would be downtown from where he currently is. Okay. All right. The second thing you do on your turn is you gather resources. Now, let's say, for example, Blackbird had moved here to the police station. So when you gather resources, that just means draw a card from the location you're on. Okay. Now, if he had moved here to the streets, you'll notice that there's a gang there blocking it, which means if he moved the streets, he could not draw a card, which means he cannot gather resources because something is blocking him. So his choice of where to move may depend on if there's other stuff there. Okay. At step 3, each player decides whether to be in hero mode or secret identity mode. Now, if you take a look at your hero cards, you'll notice there's hero mode indicated up here in the upper left corner. And there is secret identity mode, okay? You'll notice a bunch of things about this. When you're in hero mode, you can go do combat. This is your range, your defense, your hack attack, your hack defense, and how far you can move. When you're in secret identity mode, you cannot attack. You can't hack attack, you have no defense. Basically, you're blending in the crowd trying to get away from the villains or maybe do some research or something like that. However, the reason these two are on here is you can always still move in secret identity mode. And you can also get hack attacked, which we'll talk about later, okay? The reason there's this little picture here is to show that whenever you're in secret identity mode, you're doing research and you can get lead cards, okay? So this is, if you're going to go into combat, you go in hero mode. If you're going to decide you want to do research this turn, you go into secret identity mode so you can pick up a lead card, okay? So that's what it means in step 3 here, when it says decide hero or secret identity. Are you going to be doing research or are you going to go fighting? Okay, so that's what you have to decide on that turn. Step 4 is you populate supply lines. Now, the supply lines cards over here tells you the direction the supply lines move. In general, if you're playing like a 3 or 4 player game, this makes much more sense because you can only pass cards like, let's say, for example, 7 Wonders to your one direction to your adjacent, your neighbors. In a 2-player game, it doesn't matter because Amethyst Arrow can only pass in this direction back to Blackbird, and Blackbird can only pass cards in this direction, or in this direction to Amethyst Arrow, which is silly. The supply lines direction makes no sense in a 2-player game, but we leave it in there just to remind ourselves that we still have a supply lines. Okay, and there's a directionality which makes sense in a 3 or a 4-player game. Okay, so that's what the populate supply lines is. Allows us to move any of our cards here. We can pass them to our compatriots. You can never pass your power cards. Your power cards are intrinsic, so these never get passed. But location cards and lead cards are the kind of cards you can pass during the populate supply lines. Okay, 5, execute. Okay, depending on whether you're in secret identity or in hero form, different things happen. So if you decided to be in secret identity mode, you may not attack in the combat phase, but what you get to do is you get to draw a lead card immediately and then play any other cards that you need to, okay? So sometimes when you draw a lead card, it allows you to immediately draw another card from your location. Now, if you're in hero form, what you're doing is you're basically getting ready for combat. So what you can do is you can play as many legal cards as you want. It's basically saying, hey, I'm about to go fight this guy. Maybe I'll use my Blackbird Bolt, so I'll put it above me to show that I'm going to use it in combat. Okay, so you can do one of exactly 3 things here. You can play cards to get ready for combat. You can move your sidekick to the top of the soy chart. So remember from the last video for setup, we talked a lot about soy. Soy represents who's the most interesting sidekick to all the villains, all the bad guys roaming around. Who's ever at the top is usually the most likely to get attacked during a turn. So let's say, for example, that Blackbird was really, really hurt and really, 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 really couldn't take another attack or he'd die. So what would happen is maybe Amethyst Arrow, in this phase right here, she would go create a distraction. She'd go, blah, and move herself to the top of the soy chart. So the whole idea here is you can't do anything else, but you could create a distraction so that your buddy won't die this turn. Okay, finally, the third thing you can do is you can discard a card to rotate a gang. These are gangs 90 degrees. So usually what most people do during the execute phase is they play a bunch of cards, but every so often it makes sense to move yourself to the top of the soy chart for your turn, and every so often you need to just keep the gangs under control. Okay, so that's what happens in the execute phase. You move, gather resources, decide, populate supply lines, and execute. Okay, so you're a bunch of sidekicks, you've gotten ready to do combat. So let's go into combat phase. So combat, you must be in a hero form to be in combat, and sidekicks may hack attack, bad guys attack, and then sidekicks attack. So right, life isn't fair. Sidekicks have to attack after the bad guys attacked. But they do get a chance to hack attack. Now, let's talk a little bit about combat. Okay. Whenever you're in combat for the game, a lot of these statistics make sense depending on whether you're going to do physical attacks or computer attacks, hack attacking. So this is your normal attack. Just that this is a physical attack, you punch each other. This is the range. Range of 0 means you can only attack things on your current location. For example, here, if it was like this, Blackbird could not attack anything here because nothing here has range. Okay? He would actually have to move to that location to fight them. This is Blackbird's defense. So if someone does 2 damage to him, his armor reduces it by 1, so he'd only take 1 damage. So these 3 stats are just for physical attacks. These 2 stats here are for hack attacking. So this represents his nominal, Blackbird's nominal hack attack is 1, and his nominal hack defense is 1. Every sidekick, when they first come into the city, gets a little bit of training so they can do a little bit of hacking. Okay. So there's basically 2 kinds of attacks. There's hack attacks and normal attacks. So on your turn, if you like, before any combat happens, you can do a hack attack. Now let's talk about what hack attacks do. So let's say on his turn, Blackbird wanted to hack attack something. Let's take a look at, let's say he wanted to hack attack a gang over here, okay? So the gang's hack defense is 0. His hack attack, is 1. So if Blackbird wanted to hack attack this gang over here, he would do, the difference is 1 minus 0. He has the ability to do, to basically put you out of the game for 1 turn. So whenever you hack attack, you put something in disarray. So if I put something in disarray like that, that means they basically have to go deal with something else for a turn. Hack attacks don't do any damage to something, but they basically put you out of action for a turn. So if Blackbird hack attacked this gang is busy dealing with something else. They have to go into a city hall and deal with the records, or let's say they got kicked out of their hideout. So hack attacking is all about putting someone into disarray. Okay. If, for example, let's say I had some special cards which would give me extra pluses. Let's say my hack attack was 3 and his hack defense was 0. I would put this guy into disarray for 1, 2, 3 turns. And at the end of a turn, these things slowly regroup and come back. So it takes basically the number of times you rotate it is the number of turns they're out of action. So, and while a bad guy is out of action, he can't attack you, but you can still attack him. So there's reasons to do hack attacks. Even though they don't do damage, you can still put things out of the way for a while so you can do stuff. For example, if I put this uncontrolled gang into disarray, I can also, now when I go to that location, I could pick up cards because they're too busy dealing with their own stuff. Okay? So there's many reasons in the game why you might want to hack attack. Okay? Physical attacks are the only way you can actually do damage and take somebody out. For example, here, let's take a look at Bob. Let's say Blackbird wanted to attack Bob. Let's say, well, the way combat works is the bad guys attack first and then these guys. So let's say Bob attacked Blackbird first. Now currently they're not in range, but let's say that Bob happened to be at the uptown place, okay? So when Bob attacks, he attacks for 3. Blackbird's defense is 1. So Bob would do 2 damage. We'd have to put 2 tokens on Blackbird, okay? And then Blackbird would get to attack him. Blackbird does 2 damage to his 1 defense, so he'd do 1 damage. However, remember that one of Blackbird's special abilities is he also has Krav Maga, which gives him +1 at range 0, so he'd actually do 3 damage and take him out completely. So that's sort of a quick primer on how combat works. And that explains the combat phase. So in the combat phase, if sidekicks want to, they can hack attack first to maybe put a bad guy out of commission so that they can't attack that turn. But in general, the bad guys get to attack first, And the way attacks work is in city order. We've said this term before. City order refers to going from left to right, top to bottom in the city. So the way the bad guys would attack is you go through the city in city order to see if they can attack. So for example, in this configuration, we would take a look at starting up here at the warehouse, because this is the top and the leftmost location of the city. We would see, can the uncontrolled gang attack anything? No, because nothing's in range, because the controlled gang's range is only 0. Then ask Bob, can Bob attack anything? No, his range is 0. Can this gang attack anybody? No. There's no other gangs, no other bad guys in the city, so that would be the gangs trying to attack us, okay? Then we would get to attack. Let's say this was the configuration. Blackbird couldn't attack anything because his range is only 0. Now, Amethyst Arrow has a long shot, which gives her a range of 1, which means she could attack this gang in the streets. Okay, so that's the basic idea of combat. You get to hack attack first, but if you hack attack, you do not get to attack as well. Okay, so it says all that right here. You must be in hero form. Sidekicks may hack attack in any order they like. Notice that hack attacks bypass protection. Protection is something that comes up later in the game. Don't worry about it for your first patrol. Then the bad guys attack in city order, top to bottom, left to right. And then the sidekicks may attack in any order they want. So let's say we've done all our combat now. Then we move finally to the end phase. Okay. So the city terror, we raise the city terror for 1 for each gang. So currently, if this were the configuration and we're the end phase, we would raise the city terror by 1, 2, because we have 2 active gangs. So we would move this up to 3 at the end of that phase. Remember, if we go all the way to 16, we lose the game. And then finally, if anything was in disarray, let's say we hack attacked a gang, anything that's in disarray regroups and comes back 1 turn. Okay, so that, in a nutshell, is the game. Everything's on this card. So let's go ahead and go through a couple of turns and show you how the game works, okay? All right, let's go ahead and start. So, we're starting in the bad news. Our role is to try to get rid of all, to win the game, we have to take out all thugs and gangs and survive by the end of the night. Okay, so who is the least interesting sidekick? In this case, it's Amethyst Arrow. Amethyst Arrow, we're in a 2-player game, so this means we draw 1 card. She draws a bad news and reads it aloud. Okay, an uncontrolled gang appears at the police station. So this is the current bad news. We put this out there so everyone can see it. Oops, let me move this down just a touch. There we go. So that's the current bad news. Okay, so everyone can see it. So an uncontrolled gang appears at the police station. So we go to the gang hangout and put an uncontrolled gang down here at the police station. Man, we got a lot of gangs out right now. Jeez. Okay. Then we reveal a villain force. So we go here, we take the Bruiser. The Bruiser comes out, and it says on his card, the Bruiser moves to downtown upon reveal. Okay. Now normally, Amethyst Arrow would be worried because there's a guy in his location, but this is her home location, so she can always draw there. Okay, and that is the end of the bad news. Whew, that's pretty bad. We have 3 gangs out and 2. Whew, this is going to be rough. Okay. So now we go to the sidekick phase. So what do? We move. So we have to figure out this is where the sidekicks would want to talk to each other and figure out what are we going to do this turn. We really need to deal with these gangs, because if we don't, at the end phase here, the city terror is going to go up by 1 for every single gang out there, and we have 3 gangs out. So can we do something to get rid of gangs? Now normally, we could go get some police forces to deal with gangs, but this controlled gang is kind of preventing us. So I think what we want to do, Amethyst Arrow kind of looks at one of her cards. And they're like, I've got this really good card here, this Amethyst Arrow, which gives me +3 to an attack. So you know what? I might use this to try to take out the gang down here by the by the police station. So what she's going to do on her turn, let's see. So Amethyst Arrow says what she wants to do on her turn is move to Rincon Labs so she can shoot at this gang down here. Okay, so she's going to do that. So her movement is to move to Rincon Labs. And then Blackbird wants to go attack something. He can't do, let's see. He might be able to take out one of these uncontrolled gangs, so he's just going to go up. He's not going to get to draw anything, but he's going to go hand-to-hand with some of these guys. He does have a Blackbird bolt, which gives him +2 on attack, so maybe he's going to go try to take out one of those gangs. Okay? All right, so that's the movement phase. We both moved. Gather resources. So Amethyst Arrow can draw a Rincon Labs card, which gives her, a Turing Translator. Oh, that's actually really neat. It requires a scientist, but it gives +1 to hack attack and +1 to hack defense. Now, you'll notice down here that Blackbird, one of his special abilities is he is a scientist. So this is a card Amethyst is like, I should really give this to Blackbird. But in the meantime, she'll put this down here. And this is part of her hand right now. And unfortunately, Blackbird cannot draw a card because there's gangs and thugs there preventing him from doing stuff. Okay. Step 3, do we want to be in hero or secret identity mode? Both of our guys want to attack something, so we're going to stay in hero mode. So we don't have to do anything because we're already in hero mode. Third, we populate supply lines. So this is where we can pass as many cards as we want in the direction of the supply lines. And in this case, Amethyst is like, I got something that's perfect for you, Blackbird. I'm going to send you something your way. So she passes the Turing Translator on to him. And, Blackbird's like, you almost have enough. I have enough information to help you get the X-ray specs. I'm going to send you a couple of leads. So on his turn, Blackbird's going on his populate supply lines. He's going to give some leads over there to there. So by thinking aloud, it's like, well, I'm going to help you, and I'm going to help you. So the whole idea of the populate supply lines is to try to give resources to people to help them out. Okay. All right. So that's the populate supply lines. Next is execute. All right. So what we want to do is put cards in front of us. They're going to help us. So in our case, I'm going to actually put all 3 of these in front of me because the Turing Translator is now as active. I can use the smoke bombs to give me some defense because poor Blackbird's going to get beat up pretty bad over here between the gang and the Bob right there. And then Jade over here is just going to put this Amethyst Arrow into play to show that she's going to use that. Okay? All right. So that is the execute phase. You put cards in play that you're going to use during the combat phase. So in this case, nobody's going to use hack attacks, although Blackbird might be thinking about using it next turn because now he has the Turing Translator. But we're both just going to do some smashy. So first, the bad guys get to attack us. So bad guys attack in city order. So the uncontrolled gang first attacks Blackbird. So the uncontrolled gang has an attack of 2. Okay. And he has a defense of 1. Now notice over here that we do have smoke bombs for Blackbird, but he doesn't want to use them just yet because they give him an extra +2. So he's just going to take the +1 damage because 2 minus 1, 1. So Blackbird takes 1 damage on his character. Okay. Next, Bob has an attack of 3. And Blackbird has a defense of 1. In this case, Bob will use his smoke bombs. He'll discard those over here to the general sidekick discard. And now he's used those, but he doesn't have to take 2 damage from Bob because Bob has quite the punch there of 3. All right. This uncontrolled gang would try to attack. He would be next in city order, but his range is 0, so there's nothing for him to attack. Same with the Bruiser. The Bruiser has a range of 0, so he can't attack anybody. And that is it. Oh, sorry. And then this gang down here also has a range of 0. So that's all the attacks for this turn. So it wasn't too bad. Blackbird only took 1 damage, but he had to use his... Okay, so now let's go into... it's now our turn to attack. Yay! Sidekicks to attack. So first, we can do this in any order we want. And in fact... we'll see sometimes you want to control the order you attack so that you can control how things go up on the Sidekick of Interest chart. But Jade is going to take her Amethyst Arrow. Now, she's going to fling it for +3. She also has an attack of +2, so that gives her +5. And this uncontrolled gang has hit points of 3 and a defense of 2, so 5 minus 2 is 3. So she completely eliminates this uncontrolled gang with her Amethyst Arrow. So she discards the Amethyst Arrow to the general sidekick discard, and then the uncontrolled gang goes back to the hideout, And because she defeated a gang with combat, she zooms to the top of the Sidekick of Interest chart. Okay. Now, Blackbird, in the meantime, he's going to attack. He's going to attack the other controlled gang. Okay. So this one, with him, he's got an attack of 2, but he also has Krav Maga, which gives him +1 at range, and he's got the Blackbird Bolt. So between that +2, +1, +2, he has 5. 5 against 2 and 3. So he's able to take out this uncontrolled gang as well, which means he rockets to the top of the Sidekick chart. So depending on how you want the Sidekick of Interest chart to go, you can do whatever you want. Your combat in any order you want. In the meantime, let's put this Blackbird Bolt over here. And we have taken out 2 gangs. Yay! Good job, everybody. What that means now, so we're done with combat. Both Blackbird and Amethyst have done combat. And now we raise the city terror by 1 for each active gang. Well, we weren't able to take out that gang. So let's go ahead and raise the city terror by 1. Now you'll notice on the city terror chart, let's take a look at this real quick. While the city terror is down here at 1 to 5, there's no penalty. But as soon as the city terror makes it all the way up to here, we have bad things happen. We're limited to only passing 2 cards and supply lines. You'll notice we passed like 3 cards from Blackbird to Amethyst with her leads last turn. We can only pass 2 if the city terror makes it up. This think is the city getting clogged up, and it's harder for our drones and our Ubers to move around the city, so it's harder to pass stuff around supply lines. And finally, if the city terror makes it up to here, not only is it hard to pass cards around, it's also your movement gets decreased by 1. So imagine the streets get really jammed up as people get scared and gangs are roving. So it's in your interest to keep the city terror low because you do suffer penalties when city terror goes up. But right now, it's only at 2, so we're doing okay. Okay? All right, and then finally regroup. I don't think there's anything in disarray. We didn't hack attack anything. So that is the end of our first turn. So let's start our second turn, okay? Bad news phase. Least interesting hero is still Amethyst Arrow. You look here. So she reads the next bad news. An uncontrolled gang. Man, we got a lot of uncontrolled gangs. Appears downtown. Okay. Gee whiz. So this is really the bad side of town, isn't it? And then we reveal, and this one goes to the next location on the board. There's no gangs. Okay. Oh, we didn't have quite as many good things going on this turn. Oh my gosh. What are we going to do this turn? Well, so now we've done the bad news for this phase. So let's do the Sidekick phase. Now, the 2 guys are thinking here, and Amethyst is like, there's still, 1, 2, 3 gangs out. One of the things I'm really good at, this is one of my powers, is I'm a gang expert. If I can get some police forces, I can actually deal with some of these gangs by just giving them the right tactics for the police to deal with them. So Amethyst is like, I'm going to, on my turn, go to the police station so I can get some police forces to deal with some of these gangs. And Blackbird's like, well, what I could do, since I've used all my resources last time to take out that other gang, I might just try to hack attack some of these gangs so I can put them out of resource so we don't cause city terror to go up. So that's what we're going to do on our turn, okay? Now, hack attacks, since Blackbird wants to hack attack, he can pretty much be anywhere in the city. Because of that, he's going to go ahead and go... He's decided he's going to go to Rincon Labs, so that way he can get to anything else if he decides he wants to move somewhere else on his turn. And then so that's the movement. Amethyst is going to go here to the police station to pick up a card. Okay. Gather resources. Blackbird draws a force field, and Amethyst draws a police forces. Okay. All right, now if you look, the reason Amethyst wants the police forces is 2. Notice on all police, one of the nice things about the police station is that all cards are the same here. But you'll notice that if you discard 2 police forces, you can discard any uncontrolled gang. Basically what you're doing is you're dispatching, you're calling the police department saying, hey, if you do this, you can take out these gangs because they're in this neighborhood. However, since Amethyst Arrow is a gang expert, she only needs 1 police force. That's her special ability, okay? So that's why Amethyst went there, okay? And in the meantime, Blackbird got this force field, which is if he has a scientist, he can actually have a force field which gives him infinite defense. So if he went to a location, he couldn't be attacked there, which is really nice. Okay. So that was gather resources. Next, decide hero secret identity. Blackbird's going to hack attack a gang to put in disarray, and she's going to attack. Oh, actually, she can't hit anything, so she's going to go into secret identity mode because she can't attack anything anyway. And if you can't attack, it's better to just go ahead and do some research in secret identity mode. So she's going to go into secret identity mode. And now we populate supply lines. I don't think we need to share anything. We both have what we need. So let's go ahead and execute. Now in secret identity mode, Amethyst gets another lead. And then she can play as many cards as she wants. And Blackbird, he's going to... what's he going to do? He's actually got all the cards that he wants. However, the one thing that Amethyst wants to do is she's now on a location to get the X-ray specs. If you look at the X-ray specs, oh, whoops, sorry, not the X-ray specs. Oh, no, that's the suburbs. I'm sorry. She was going to go to the suburbs next turn. Okay. Well, I thought she was going to go looking for that, but she's in the wrong location for that. She needs to go to the caves or the suburbs. Okay, so never mind. I thought she was going to discard some leads, but she's not going to. All right, so let's see. That is the end of the execute phase. Now we're in combat. So first, in combat phase, sidekicks may hack attack first. So Blackbird has hack attack of 1, but since he is a scientist and he has the Turing translator, he gets an extra +1. So his hack attack is now 2, and he's going to go ahead and hack attack one of these gangs. So maybe he'll hack attack this one. His hack defense is 2, so he's going to hack attack this gang and put it in disarray 2. Okay, so that's his attack. Now the bad guys attack. Bob can't attack anyone not in range. This gang can't hit anyone in range. Let's see. The Bruiser. See, this gang can't attack because it's in disarray. Bruiser can't attack because it's not in range. This gang can't attack in range. So the bad guys don't get to attack us. Yay! But and she cannot attack because she's in secret identity mode. So combat was actually nothing really happened that turn. Okay. However, one thing Jade forgot to do on her turn when she executed, she meant to play this, which allowed her to discard and get rid of a gang. Okay. On her turn, sorry, she should have done this back in the execute phase. She discarded the police forces to get rid of a gang. Okay. Remember, that's because that's her special ability. She's a gang expert. All right, then. So we are now in the end phase. Raise the city terror by 2 for each active gang. We have this gang is in disarray, so it doesn't cause city terror. This one is, so the city terror does go up 1. Okay, and then finally, anything in disarray regroups. So this gang comes back by 90 degrees. It still has one more turn that it's in disarray. Okay, and that's basically how the game works. Okay. That's a couple of turns showing you how the game goes. You keep playing until you get to the bottom of the bad news deck. But basically you move around the city, gather resources, decide when to be superhero or hero, and there's reasons to be one or the other. Notice that Jade has a bunch of leads. She might now go to the suburbs to get the X-ray specs, or if she gets one more lead, she could go to the caves and get the Cave Warrior car. And that's sort of an idea of how the game flows. Hopefully that was helpful for you. There's another couple videos for showing how to play Sidekick Saga. These rules should also be on Board Game Geek. There should be a lot of resources on there to help you play the game. But remember, at the end of the day, everything you need should be on the player summary card. When you get to the end of an act, this kind of shows you what to do at the end of an act when you get to the end of afternoon card. But this is kind of a sense of how the game works. Hopefully you found this useful. Thanks for tuning in.